If you like spring crafts, this video is for you. Hello friends and welcome into my craft room. Today I am sharing my top 30 favorite all-time crafts that I've done using Dollar Tree supplies. Alright, now let's get crafting. I'm going to be using one of these wood plaque signs. The staples on the back, whew, this was really stapled on. I had to pull pretty hard, so you could just cut it off with scissors if it's giving you a hard time too. I flipped it over, removed the twine, flipped it back over, and then I cut down a piece of white burlap. I get a lot of people asking where I get my white burlap. I pick mine up from Joann's. I always go back to the back of their store. It's usually back by all the upholstery fabric and stuff because a lot of people use this for upholstery. So I picked up some of that, glued it on, tacked in some push pins from the Dollar Tree, and you can see here that I lined up tongue depressor sticks, and I'm going to use a Sharpie marker, and I'm going to just simply make a line coming in at the end so we can make the shape of a carrot. Now I'm going to use some dull scissors. Don't use your good scissors on this part, and I'm going to cut right on those lines. And then make sure you do not see that black Sharpie marker. I just flipped my popsicle sticks over so that you don't see that part. And I glued them down. Once you've got those glued down, take some orange paint and some water, mix those together so it becomes more of an orange stain, and then paint your carrot. And now I'm adding some greenery up at the top and a beautiful blue bow. I love this ribbon. I'll link it. I picked it up on Amazon. I'll link it in my description box below. And then I'm going to add a gingham ribbon that's blue from the Dollar Tree. And after this point, I wanted to make that white burlap stand out a little bit more. You could skip this part, but I really felt like doing a wood stain, which is basically just water brown paint. And I'm just going to go over that so it soaks into the wood to make it a little bit darker. And that the burlap will pop out and shine more. We are going to be using two of these thicker painter sticks. I'm pretty sure they're the yard sticks. Two of these boxes, a wooden stick craft dowel, some fabric, and a foam square. Start by gluing together those boxes with some hot glue, and then on the sides, you're going to go ahead and glue on those painter sticks. Now, like I said before, these were a yard stick. I cut them down so that they're 12 inches like the traditional painter sticks. I just use my miter box. I'm using these versus the normal painter sticks just because I like that they're thicker and they're a little more substantial. So you can use the other ones, but this is just kind of what I did. So once you've got that glued on, you can go ahead and take your craft dowel stick and you're going to just wedge that right between. You're going to see that it's just a little snug, but that's good because it's going to keep it in place long term. And I'm just going to add in a bead of glue, the hot glue in there, so it locks it all in so it doesn't shift or move over time. At this point, we've got our garden box built, and I'm going to come in with some white paint, but you can paint it whatever color you want. I always want to encourage my viewers here on this channel, make it for you and your home. Customize it. You can do this for any holiday or season. It's the cutest little garden box. At this point, I'm going to take some brown and black paint and I'm going to do some distressing to give it that farmhouse look that I love so much. And then I'm borrowing my daughter's stamps again. I did this for another project last week. I'm going to take these stamps and spell out the word spring on the drop cloth fabric. Once I've got those letters all stamped out, I'm actually going to come back on top of them and very lightly scratch the surface of the fabric with a Sharpie marker, just to make it a little bit darker, but I don't want to heavily color it in because I want it to still have that farmhouse look. So once I've got those all colored in how I want, lightly, I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors, snip those into strips, and then I'm going to come in with a dovetail on the end. For years and years, I would always call it an upside down V as a kid, and then one day I learned that it's actually called a dovetail cut. I'm now going to just take my fingers and I'm going to go in a circular type motion just to rough up the fabric, loosen those fibers some so it gives it that distressed look. And then at this point, I actually forgot to film this part, but I did rough up the fabric with a little bit of that distressing paint, the black and the brown. I forgot to show that. I'm so sorry about that. But I'm going to take some twine so we can hang up our little banner letters. I put a little bead of glue, went around it twice, and tied a knot. Then I'm going to come back in with those letter strips. I'm going to add some glue lightly on there, and I'm going to just pinch that right onto the twine. This project is so easy and so adorable. And again, you can customize this to whatever holiday or season you want. You could just end up having the banner say hello, and then you can switch out the stuff inside of the little crate boxes for all the different holidays. Could you imagine little pumpkins in here, little Christmas trees? It would be such a darling thing to make and have for all these different seasons. Now I felt like the top needed a little bow, so you're going to notice I added 2 little bows up there because Heidi loves a good bow. And then I'm going to keep these pieces of foam in here so that it's a support to stick whatever I want for different holidays and seasons inside. So at this point, I've put in some flowers, and then I'm going to come back in with some of this Spanish moss. Oh my word, it makes the biggest mess. I say it every time, but I just can't help myself. I love how it looks, especially for spring projects. I just feel like it makes it feel more like a garden. So just have a trash can close by, which is what I swished all that into, and then add in more florals and you're ready to display. I'm going to be using this $5 plus item from the Dollar Tree. This is so awesome because I was actually getting ready to DIY something, and then I found this one, 2 of the packs of the carrots, and then some burlap. We are going to take off that carrot on the front and put it to the side because we can use it for a DIY on another day. And then this bow, oddly enough, this thing was stapled on and ready for a war to break out. I mean, this thing was so sturdy on here that I couldn't pull it off, so I actually just had to cut it off. And then we're going to take some burlap. I always like to double up my burlap so you don't see through it. And we are going to glue around 3 of the sides and lay it down to create a pocket on the front of the bunny. Now, a couple years back, there were a couple of different home decor stores that had this exact look where the bunny has a little pocket on the front of it and it's got some carrots and some cute things in it. And those decor online shops were charging a ton of money. We're talking over $100 for that front door decor piece, which is crazy. And we're going to make ours for right around $10 and save ourselves a ton of money. So once you've got your pocket glued on, and make sure you leave enough room to be able to actually tuck the carrots in. You don't want to glue it down where it's super flat. You're going to just come in with your carrots, stack them in there where you want them to be. And then on the front where that little flat part is to help the bunny stand up, I glued 3 carrots there as well. Now I want to beef up that greenery a little bit because I think it just makes it look more fuller, high end. That's really when things start to go from being a Dollar Tree product to looking more high end when you fill it in, make it look fuller. And then where that bow was we cut off earlier, I'm going to come in with a beautiful big tan bow, and this was from the Dollar Tree as well, this ribbon, as well as a lacy bow, which is also from the Dollar Tree. And then to add a little extra personality, we're going to put a green button, which I picked these buttons up at their front checkout area. They always have little buttons up there. I love using buttons in my crafting. Leave a comment down below to let me know if you like using buttons like I do, because I put them on a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that button into place. And then what would this cute little bunny be without a little farm sign of some kind to say how much his carrots are that he's willing to sell to you at his little farmer's market stand. So we're going to just add a little 25-cent tag, and I get these little tags in their floral section and sometimes their garden section around springtime. You get, I think, 4 or 5 of them in a pack for $1.25. So I just went ahead and painted that on there, 25 cents for his carrots, and we're going to sneak that down inside, and we saved ourselves at least $90 DIYing it ourselves. I'm going to be taking this fall sign, but we're going to be using the back side as well as these bunnies. And we are going to start with taking our sign and tracing some fabric to size for the back side of our sign, because we want to cover that up so it has a nice finished look. Once you've got it all nice and smoothed out and in place, I'm going to take some of my scrapbook paper that I have on hand. I love this floral print and this gingham blueprint together. I just feel like it screams spring. I love them so much. So I'm going to add some adhesive to my sign, and they don't have to be perfectly cut because we're going to do some distressing in just a minute. And you're going to see I put some of the floral pattern on one side, on the other side, and then right in the center I'm bringing in that gingham. Now this is where the distressing is going to come in. I love a roughed edge on my paper. So I'm going to just take my scissors and just keep rubbing back and forth. It's okay if it rips just a little bit. You don't want huge giant rips in it, but enough that it gives that distressed look. It kind of has a ruffled look to it when you get all the way around the four sides. And then I'm going to go ahead and add on some of this lace. And now we're going to move on to the bunnies. The bunnies always have these little holes in it when you buy these garland kits. So I like to just fill in those holes with some wood putty. I like to put my finger on the back side of the hole and then put in the putty so it doesn't keep squishing through. You'll notice that that can be kind of frustrating when you're trying to fill the hole. Once it's dry, go ahead and sand it down. Give your bunnies a couple coats of paint, depending on how white you want them to be, and then distress them. And at this point, once they're all dry, you can go ahead and start gluing them on. Now I'm going to do 5 bunnies. The best way to center them is putting the bunny in the middle first, and then keep working your way out to the sides. Now it would not be complete without little bunny tails, so I added on some cotton balls, and I also added on some twine bows every other bunny. I thought it would be so much fun to create a sheep decor piece. So we're going to use some black felt, a wood round from the Dollar Tree, some yarn, a wooden square frame box, and a craft stick. Start by drilling 2 holes on your wood round right on the sides. This is going to be the leg of our little sheeps where our legs meet into the body. Go ahead and remove from the back side the staples, the twine, and the hang-up metal piece on the back. And then we're going to figure out how long we want the legs to be on our little sheep. Go ahead and cut that down. Make sure they're the same length, measure them, cut them, and then after that we're going to glue them into the wood round. Now I like to use a combination of wood glue and hot glue for the short-term, long-term hold. So first I put in some wood glue on one side of that hole, and then I came in with hot glue on the stick on the opposite side. I'm going to wedge that down in there, wiggle it around, and it is going to have a very nice lock in there for you. So this has got a nice high-end finish. Do both of the legs, and then at this point we can start turning this into a darling little sheep. With it being that spring, summertime that we're always all so excited looking for ideas for, I'm going to take this yarn and I'm going to keep coiling it around and around, come up onto the side and over onto the back to finish the back side. I love a good finished project. So go ahead and keep coiling it around. Take your time because this is an easy way to get hot glue on your fingers and burn yourself. So just make sure you go all the way around really slowly. And then when you're done, make sure to fluff it up so it looks fluffy like a sheep. Then we're going to take those legs and we are going to add some hot glue into that box. And we're going to just glue those into place and hold it there until the glue dries. Now we're going to sketch out the sheep's head. It's kind of an oval shape with 2 oval ears coming off the sides. So once you've got that sketched out on a piece of paper, go ahead and cut it out. And then once you've got that cut out as a template, lay that onto your felt and cut it out from your felt. This is such a fun, easy project to do, and it really does have that French country farmhouse vibe to it. Go ahead and cut it all the way out and glue it right in the center of the sheep's body. Isn't this so whimsical and cute? I just can't even. This little sheep, he just makes me so happy. Then we're going to decorate the inside of our garden box so it looks like our sheep is standing out in a beautiful field. Go ahead and take some Spanish moss, add some glue into your crate box, and then just glue that right down in there. We don't need too much because we want to be able to add in some florals as well. And I'm going to just be using this beautiful lavender floral that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then for a little extra special touch, I took one of these library tags, and I'm going to be using the paper pad from Maggie Holmes, her garden party collection. And I'm going to cut out the little tag that says Happy Day, because this just makes me so happy, this little sheep. I'm going to cut that out and glue on into our metal library tag holder. I know there's an official name for this thing, but I don't remember. I'm so sorry. Leave a comment down below if you know what these little tags are called. And then just go ahead and glue that down into place. Clean it up. Can you tell my hands are totally calloused? I can touch hot glue pretty easily without getting burnt. I just always move it around real quick. In the end, you've got this charming little decor piece that is so perfect for the spring and summer. This project is going to be so fast, so cute, and have such fun color to it. We're going to be using this wood round, this bunny hang-up sign, and then a craft stick dowel. Go ahead and take your bunny apart from that twine that was on the back of it and remove all those staples. Once you get those all removed, go ahead and take a drill a little bit of a bigger hole where that hole already existed from that twine, and then just put that craft wood stick right down in there. That's honestly the most complicated thing about this project. We're not going to be using any other power tools. It just needed for that one thing. Now we're going to go ahead and glue on our bunny at the top of the stick, but we're going to bring back in this really cute hippity hoppity on it as well. So go ahead and glue those on. Use some fabric to help lock it into place and clean up the backside. I added a little bit of hot glue at the bottom of that wood base, and then I put on some of my Spanish moss. And now I'm just simply taking some of those Dollar Tree carrots that I just love this season. They're so much fun to work with. I'm cutting off the tip so that they're 3 different heights, and I'm just kind of twisting them down in there when I get some hot glue in that spot, and you've got yourself an adorable decor piece. For this project, we're going to be taking an old mason jar that I found at the thrift store, some carrots from the Dollar Tree, some Spanish moss, and then one of these garden tag signs that I feel has a very farmhouse flair to it. Start by taking that Spanish moss and tucking it down inside of the jar, and then go ahead and just fill in that jar with all these different size carrots. Once you've got those all nice and filled in, take some of your gingham black and white fabric or ribbon, tie it around and glue it into place, and then we're going to take the stick off of that garden tag. I'm using a white gel pen, and I'm just writing the word bunny treats on it, and then we are going to take that little tag and glue it into place. Once it's glued into place, I felt like it still needed a little something extra, so I tied a bow out of that gingham fabric and glued that on. I like to leave the jar open so you can pull a carrot out for a bunny treat. And then I still felt like it was missing something, so it was time to add a cute little button, and that completes the look. These tiles have been so popular from the Dollar Tree, and there's all kinds of projects out there, but I wanted to do something special with it today that I hope you'll give a try. Go ahead and cut off that outer flat rim. That's going to release the adhesive strip on the back side. We don't need that adhesive strip, so go ahead and cut all the way around the tile. Remove the adhesive strip, and then we're going to paint it 2 coats of white paint. I'm going to come in with my brush just real quick. Make sure you smooth out the paint around those bumpy edges. It'll take longer to dry if you don't. I'm going to use my heat gun in between those two sessions. I'm going to dry it, come back in with some more white paint, and then dry it once again. Once everything has been dried and it's nice and white, go ahead and take some brown and black paint combo, and we are going to dry brush across the surface. Now this is the part that's really popular, everybody's been doing, but we're going to turn it into something really special. Once you've got that texture nice and raised and it just has that farmhouse French country look, go ahead and take that tile, once it's dry, flip it over, and we're going to fold it into almost like an envelope. Fold down the sides, making sure they overlap a little bit. You're going to have to make sure you kind of push past that one line detail on the tile to get a nice fold. And then we're going to glue that into place because we are going to be making a darling pocket to put some florals or whatever you want to put inside of it, honestly, for your doorknobs, for a hook in your house. It's going to be so cute when we're done. Once you've got that glued into place, go ahead and cut it in half, or you could leave it long. You could use this in a kitchen and put all kinds of wooden spoons in it. Oh, that could be so cute too. I like to use some popsicle sticks at the bottom because this is going to help it lock into place since it's got all that texture and bumpy grooves in it. Go ahead and put 2 popsicle sticks on opposite sides of it once you get that hot glue in there. And then go ahead and use some clips, these crafting clips that I use here from the Dollar Tree, and then just clip right onto that wood popsicle stick. That's going to help it lock into place all that glue in between all those little crevices. Then go ahead and remove it. Punch 2 holes out. I'm using my Crop-A-Dile, and then I'm going to feed in some wire here, and I'm just going to simply twist, twist, twist until I get all the way around, coiled up the handle part of this wire. And then I'm going to come over onto the other side and do the same thing so we can create a nice hang-up wire on this darling, darling tile little hang-up basket. I think these are so cool because you can fill them with all kinds of stuff, especially if you keep them long and not cut it in half. Like I said, you can fill it with wooden spoons. You can fill it with so many fun things. And you can make it even bigger and thicker depending on how many tiles you want to glue together. It's all up to you, and the options are endless. Now we want to make sure the pocket stays open, so go ahead and put some paper towels, glue those down in there, and then I'm going to come in with some Spanish moss. I'm going to glue that in there, and then after I've got my Spanish moss all glued in, now you can decide what florals you want to use. For the spring and summertime, I just think it's so beautiful. These lavender, salvia, floral stems that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue a couple of those down in there with the 2 different tones of purple. And then to give it that farmhouse flair, I'm going to take one of these little wooden garden tags and I'm going to glue that right onto the front. This is such a beautiful way to get the look, and it's so cost friendly. Our supplies for this project are going to be a 20-inch wreath form, 8 to 9 ropes, depending on how long your ropes are, from the Dollar Tree, and then one of these 3D wreath forms. We're taking the second ring from the outer form. We are going to take that ring and right at the joint, bend it where it pops right in half, and then go across to the other side and cut right there. Now you're going to notice there are little circles on the middle of these arches now. That's where the 3D wreath form all comes together with one little metal rod. We're going to bend it right at that point to create the bunny ears. Start by bending the first one towards you and then the second one away from you. And you can see that I've already pinched it into place of the bunny ears. So one is going to come towards you and one's going to come away from you. That's going to allow you to be able to lock those 2 into place so it stays in that shape of a bunny ear. Now we're going to come in through the first and second ring, right where you see that connecting joint, and we're going to hook those ears back together. Now using 3 zip ties, you're going to zip it right in the middle, and then you're going to come onto the side of the ear and the first ring, zip tie that one, and then go over to the other side of the ear, zip tying the other side to that first ring. This is going to strengthen the ears really, really strong, and it's not going to go anywhere for your bunny ears. Once you've got those all zip tied in, go ahead and take your scissors and just simply cut off those long zip ties. You don't want those in the way, they're just kind of messy. And then after you've got all of that nice and secure, you're now going to move on to your rope. Take your rope, hot glue the rope on, and we're going to start at the ear. So you're going to just keep twisting around your wire and your ear as tightly as you can. You want this to be nice and snug. And I kept adding some glue about every 3 or 4 times I wrapped it around, because we don't want to see the wire and we want to keep the rope being consistent in its tightness. So when you get to the top of the ear, you're going to add some glue and then come back down the other side. Once you've gotten down the other side of the bunny ear, come down onto that 20-inch wreath form and then just keep wrapping around. You're going to notice, because the wreath is round, that the rope sometimes wants to be looser on the outer part of the wreath form, so just make sure you double back into those spots where it might need a little bit of extra rope, and then just keep going forward after that. Use hot glue as needed to secure the rope in its place that you want it. Make your way all the way around the wreath until you get to your finishing point and cut off the rope. Again, I used about 8 or 9 rope packages from the Dollar Tree to complete the full way around the bunny. Now at this point, we're going to go on to the ears. I am taking some hot glue. I went around with a nice straight line on the back of the ear. I'm smoothing on some white burlap, and then once it's all patted down, massaged into the glue, I'm going to come in with my scissors and cut right along the line where that hot glue is, so it's a nice clean look. I think it looks so adorable having the white burlap be inside the bunny's ears. I decided to add a couple of fern leaves onto my bunny's ears. I thought this would be so pretty and add a little bit of that spring touch. And now I'm going to start adding on my bows. You can add on whatever kind of bow you want to add on. I'm going to be going with a sage green and a peach look to this bunny wreath. The first one was a double loop bow, and now I'm going to show you how to make a really simple traditional bow that looks really full. So you can see here I've got about 12-13 inches length in a ribbon. I glued it into the center, pinched it into the middle, and now I'm going to take another piece. I'm going to fold and tuck over the sides, glue it down just a little bit to hold it into place. Nothing too crazy with that glue. And then now I'm going to take that, put that into the center of that loop bow that we made earlier. We pinched it right in the middle, and now we're going to just simply glue that and wrap that around into place. Tuck in that end where the back side of this bow is going to be and glue that down. This is the easiest way to make a perfect looking bow. Now to add on the tails, you're just going to take some extra ribbon, get it to the length that you want, add in your glue, add on your bow. Isn't that the easiest way to make a bow? There's a lot of times people struggle with patterns on ribbon. This is the quickest way to do it if you have a pattern on a ribbon, or you're just not in general really good at tying bows. And we all have our different skills. Don't ever feel bad if you can't figure out how to do it. It just takes practice, and just keep trying until you get it to the way you like it. And then in the end, all I'm going to do is add on this pretty poppy peach flower. The very last step is to simply add on a piece of rope on the back to be able to hang it up, and you've got yourself the most charming, beautiful bunny wreath for your front door. This adorable project has tulips that I picked up from Amazon, a foam square piece, and then a bucket from the Dollar Tree. Start by adding hot glue and a little bit of E6000 to the bottom of your square foam piece and pop that right inside your bucket. Now I'm going to use a plier to push in some holes, because these tulips have wires in them, but they have this realistic green casing around it that doesn't let them go into the foam as easily. So I'm going to go ahead and allow those holes to help me get them in there nice and easy, and then I'm going to just glue them into place. Cut your tulips at all different heights and continue to fill them in until you have a beautiful full bucket of tulips. Once they are all in place, take some of the Spanish dried moss and pop that in around the bottom of the flowers in the bucket. Our supplies to make the carrot cake are 2 different size containers from the Dollar Tree, some carrots, some caulk, and some spackle. You're going to need to take your smaller container and you're going to put some hot glue all the way around that rim and then glue it to the bottom of your larger container. Make sure that they're centered before the hot glue dries and it locks into place, because I almost had it happen to me. So make sure you shift it around and get it into place. And then we're going to remove the lid off of our spackle and use a silicone spatula to apply it to the container. Now, funny enough, this just worked out really great that the glitter on this container actually allowed the spackle to stick on there even better. It had something to hold on to. So it wasn't such a terrible thing that that was on there. But we're going to go ahead and just continue to smooth it out all over it and just keep playing with it until you get the texture that you would like it to look like, so it represents and resembles frosting. Once you've gone all the way around the bottom one, come up to the top and continue to just work around that smaller upper layer of your cake. Now we're going to take some water and smooth out any spaces that might need some smoothing where it looks a little too rough. I just like to just dip my finger into a cup of water next to me, and I just keep playing with it until I get that consistency of frosting. Now at the very top, I decided to shift some of the spackle so that I can make sure that the carrot bonds well to the container, and that way it really locks in there and stays on without falling off. At this point, you can see the rims of our little cake we're making. They look a little raw, they look a little rough. So we are going to now take the caulk, and I'm just going in a swirling, simple motion to create this frosted edge. Now, a fun fact about me and my family, my mom, being as crafty as she is, when she was younger, before she had kids, she decided to take a cake decorating class, and then it became one of her side businesses that she would do growing up. So my mom actually made wedding cakes, I mean, whatever you can think of, and we always had the coolest birthday cakes because my mom had this skill. So we're now going to do a really simple stroke with our caulk to create more frosting. You're going to push it out so it balls up into a clump and then drag before you release the pressure. That is going to create a really beautiful motion in the frosting and make it look like a real cake. So I'm just building up all the frosting around those 2 top layers and then around the base. You can see that I pulled out parchment paper because we want to make sure that that caulk is going to dry without getting stuck to something. So once you've gone all the way around, everything is dry. I honestly just let it dry overnight, so I didn't have any issues with it. You then can come in with some white paint and just simply paint the entire thing white. This is going to make sure that you're locking everything in. It looks really good, and at this point, it really does look like frosting. Now we're going to pull out some flax seeds and some Mod Podge, and we are going to create that nutty look on the side of a carrot cake. I like to just pour my Mod Podge into my lid cap, and then I'm going to only focus on the sides of the cake, not where we put the caulk. Okay, here's a fun fact, friends. I know that eggs are super expensive right now. Did you know that flax seeds are a substitute for eggs? You add some water to it and it gets the same consistency as an egg. So look it up online. I'm actually borderline vegan. I'm 100% vegetarian, but borderline vegan. And so flax seeds is a substitute that I use when I bake. So look it up if you're having a hard time finding eggs. I thought it was funny to kind of mention it. So you can see that I went all the way around the cake on the top layer and the bottom layer. And now I'm putting in that hot glue and I'm just nestling that carrot down in there. And now, at this point, I've decided to make sure that flaxseed's really bonded on there well and it doesn't rub off over time. I'm going to come in with one more layer of Mod Podge and I'm going to put one more layer of that flaxseed on there. This is going to create a double layer, really locking it in and making it look high quality, and it's going to trick a lot of people when they first see it, thinking that this is a real mini cake. Now at this point, once I've gone all the way around, doubled up that flaxseed on there, you're going to want to just let it dry, let it do its thing, and set it to the side. But before I walk away from the project, you want to make sure that the caulk that you did around it to make it look like that frosting detail, you want to make sure you just clean it up some. So we're going to just take a wipey, wipe off anywhere where the flaxseed or the Mod Podge might have accidentally gotten on it, and then come back in with the white paintbrush and just clean it up a little bit. This is going to make it look really finished and polished. I love a good finished project because this is when it really starts to come to life. Also, I wanted to share that when I'm done, I always like to wipe out the lid, making sure that there's nothing in there. And it also keeps your Mod Podge from getting too goopy where you can't close it and open it very easily. And then just screw that on. And here is the finished look of our carrot cake. For this DIY, I'm going to be using this beautiful Happy Easter Cottontails Farm Fresh egg sign. I'm going to be using some ribbon, this large 18-inch wreath form, and then a whole bunch of different florals. Most everything is from the Dollar Tree except for the really large peonies. I got that at the end of a Christmas sale. They have a little bit of frost to it on the floral, but you don't really even notice it when you bring it all together, and I got a killer deal for them, so we're going to use those two on this project. We're going to start by taking this burlap lace ribbon that you can get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just simply wrap it all the way around the whole wreath form. I like doing this because it makes it so much easier gluing your florals on, because you're not going to struggle with these holes and them falling through or having to zip tie anything. So I'm just going to coil that all the way around. It's not going to be able to reach all the way perfectly around. It gets real close, but we're going to cover that up with a bunch of stuff so you won't even notice it. Now I'm going to take my sign and I'm going to put the zip ties on the bottom side of the sign, and I'm going to zip that right onto that wreath form, and I am going to just make sure I get both of them in place before I zip tie one side too tight, because then it makes it hard to get the other one on. So just get it in place and then start to pull it tighter and then snip. And I push those little square pieces back down underneath so you don't have to see those. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a bow. Now you can see this is the easiest way to make a very big loopy bow. I'm zigzagging back and forth 4 times. I make sure that there's a tail on each end going the opposite direction. And then I take it and I'm going to just gather it right in the middle and tie it around in a knot. That's it. There are so many people who use all these different tools to make bows, and you really could do that if you want to, but this works the same. I'm not kidding. Like, you're going to see in the end, I'm going to have this beautiful bow on here, and it was just me zigzagging back and forth with some ribbon. So if you're not great at tying ribbons, give this a try. Like, this is a really easy one to do. And then I'm going to just pull a zip tie through it, and I'm going to put that around my form itself, and I'm going to use that to be able to zip tie on there so that I don't have to worry about hot gluing it on and making a mess with all that hot glue. And I'm just going to get it in position and then tighten it. Isn't that just the easiest bow ever? So once you've got your bow on, go ahead and fluff it out, and look, all we did was zigzag back and forth and tie a knot. Isn't that just the easiest bow ever? And if you want to make more loops, you just keep zigzagging, or you can double up bows. That works as well. Now I'm really slowing down this wreath process because sometimes I go a little fast with these, and I know that there's a lot of beginning crafters who are looking for some spring inspiration. So I'm going to show you at this point how I build my florals. I get a lot of questions how I come up with my color combos. I really wanted to bring out all of those beautiful spring colors, especially on a front door. I just think that's a place where you really could put a lot of color. So I'm doing a softer peony pink flower. Then I'm coming in with a darker pink peony flower, almost like salmon pink color. And now I'm coming in with some tiny little daisies. I think that these are so beautiful. They bring in that yellow and that white. And at this point now I want to definitely bring in some more yellow. So I've got these smaller flowers. I think this is supposed to try to be like a ranunculus. Honestly, I think like the way that it looks, I think that's what they were going for at the Dollar Tree. And now I'm going to come in with some of this Salvia delphinium. I'm not sure what this flower exactly is supposed to be, but it has that same long look to it. So I'm going to just glue in a couple of those. And now to bring in a little more pop of color, and since there's a bunny on this, I thought it would be so pretty to work in some really bright orange carrots. And then I'm going to come in with some ferns and some of these little mini roses. Friends, I wanted to show you in this video how much fun it is to layer and layer and layer. And that's what makes a gorgeous wreath. When you see wreaths at stores that cost like $200 or something crazy like that, it's because they're super layered and have all these different colors and florals. And you can get that look with things from the Dollar Tree. So on those ribbons, I came around the backside and I just kind of zigzagged that ribbon down, longer on one side, shorter on the other. And now I'm going to do that same loopy technique that I did earlier for my ribbon. And I'm going to do that with some orange gingham ribbon. Now I'm going to come in with a button because I just love buttons. I mean, have I not been doing that in quite a few videos lately? You can skip over the button if it's not your thing. But I'm going to add on a button, and then I'm going to add on a little bit of twine right in the middle of that. And all of these together they make me so happy. I hope you give these techniques a try. I really do. On the backside, don't forget to add on your rope. And I always like to unfray the edges just a little bit to give it some more of that locked in security. And then to clean it up, I like to take some fabric, glue it over the top of it, and then I just trim around it to make it look really clean and high-end finished. I love an oval frame, and when I saw this one, especially at half off, I snatched it right away because it reminds me of the frames that you can get on Main Street at Disneyland. You know, where you have your silhouettes cut out and they put them in these frames. So I picked it up because I had a cute idea I wanted to try for Easter. Start by taking off all the screws and the backings of the frame, and we're going to take it outside and give it a coat of flat white spray paint. Once it's all dry, bring it inside the house, and I'm going to do a very light dry brushing because I do want it primarily to show the white, not too distressed on this one. I'm going to just lightly go over it to bring out that really beautiful leaf detail on the side of the oval frame. Once that's all done, I'm going to pull out my scrapbook paper, and you can use any scrapbook paper you would like. This collection of scrapbook paper is from My Mind's Eye. I got it a while ago. I know some people have still been able to find it, but it is a past collection. But they have beautiful bundles of scrapbook paper at Joann's, and you can use lots of coupons there. So once you find a pattern paper that you like for a frame like this, you are going to make sure you rip it out. Take your time ripping it out so it doesn't rip funny. I always like to pull from the top corner, and then I just keep pulling down until it completely releases from the adhesive band on the side. And then I'm going to just simply trace around my frame that I had as the backing piece, and then we're going to simply cut it out. Now I like to do it this way just because trying to freehand cut this just takes way too long. Tracing it is so much easier. And because I don't really care too much about those little nubs at the top of that frame piece, I'm just going to cut those off because you're not even going to see it. Add some adhesive to it, and then go ahead and add on the paper and rub it down nice and smooth. You want to make sure it's really bond well to this backing piece because we're going to glue on the bunny, and the bunny's going to have some weight to it, which can pull the paper away from that backing piece. So once you've got it all adhesived on, go ahead and put it all back together, add back in your screws, and add on a Darling Bunny from the Dollar Tree, and you have got yourself the most beautiful high-end looking frame for Easter. This project is going to be super whimsical. I picked up a couple of different florally napkins from HomeGoods, and then I'm getting 3 of these teacups from the Dollar Tree. Start by adding some Mod Podge to your cups. We're going to do 2 of the cups that are going to be decoupaged or Mod Podge with these tissue papers on here. The trick about this is that you want to make sure you're being really gentle with that tissue paper or a napkin. Now this napkin is a little bit sturdier because it's a nicer quality napkin, and you'll learn that when you buy napkins that are from a different store like HomeGoods versus the Dollar Tree. You'll see the quality in the napkins are a little bit tougher where you can rub them around. But if you're working with tissue paper, definitely make sure you're tapping and being very gentle. Now I'm just adding Mod Podge all over this cup, and I'm working down that napkin to fit around that whole cup. When I get to the bottom, I just cut off the extra, and I'm just simply gluing it all down into place, making sure you can see all the details of the cup. This is going to give you that adorable teacup china look without having to hunt all over thrift stores. They're so hard to find. Everybody's collecting these little teacups, and I love teacups. So if you can't find them at your thrift stores, this is a great way to get that look. Go ahead and make sure you wrap that napkin down into the cup, and then also come around onto the handle. You can see I cut a piece down of the napkin. And then also I should point out too, sometimes the napkins have a couple of layers to them and you can peel them apart. So make sure you do that so that the napkin's not too thick and it's easy to work with. Now for the rim and for the handle, make sure you're just coming around that curve and gluing it all into place. Now for the 3rd cup, I've decided I'm going to use one of these molds because we're going to make it a little bit different. 2 are going to have that napkin tissue paper on it, and then the other one's going to be spray painted. I have this beautiful mold. I'll link it down below in the description box. But my favorite way to do this is I always like to add a little bit of flour first, and then I work in my air dry clay, and then I slowly flip it over and just kind of let it fall into my hand. Once that's in your hand, I actually like to glue it on while it's still wet because it'll allow you to be able to curve it without the wings cracking, especially on things like butterflies and birds and flowers. It's better to apply it while it's still wet so that it can curve around whatever edges you have. Now I'm just taking some E6000 and a paintbrush, and I'm just working that around all over, and then I'm going to put that onto my cup. Now make sure when you go to put this down, have the cup in a nice safe place where that little mold air dry clay is not going to slide on you, because it will slide if you stand the cup up while the E6000 is still drying. Then I'm going to take some white paint and do 2 coats inside of those tissue paper or napkin cups. This is going to help bring the opaqueness up more so that you don't see through the cup since it's glass. So that's just another tip I would recommend doing, but you don't have to. I just recommend doing it because you're going to see that pattern come through on those napkins better. Now here is that cup once it was all dry from the butterfly and from the moss green Rust-Oleum spray paint. I'm going to come in and dry brush on top of that butterfly to bring out the texture in it, which is the reason why I picked that butterfly for this cup. And then I'm going to take my paint and I'm still going to just kind of lightly tap around the cup to distress it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a little stacked pile of teacups. The best way, in my opinion, when I was working on this, I found that if I put the teacup in and then took a pencil and drew a line around it, it made it so I knew where to put the glue without making a big mess with the glue, because it does get a little messy when you're trying to make these fit right and so that they are standing up nice and sturdy. Now you can see here that I'm tucking in some Spanish moss because at the very top of our teacup I'm going to put a little bird's nest. I thought that this would be so beautiful for this time of year. Something so fun and whimsical. And you really could do this for any holiday and any season. You just change out what you're putting on that middle cup and what you're putting at the top of the other cup. So now go ahead and just nestle on that third cup, making sure it's all nice and sturdy, which is the reason why we're using that pencil line so that we know where to place the cup and we're not struggling when the glue goes on. And I'm using E6000 and hot glue to bind everything together. At the very top, I'm going to add in this nest. I bought a whole bunch of these from Amazon a while ago. I'll link those down below. I added in a little bit of extra Spanish moss so it matches what's in the cups on the sides. And then now I'm going to just come in with one of these little eggs. I like to snip the egg a little bit, add glue inside of the egg, and then come all over the outside of the egg. That helps it all lock on there really well without the eggs just popping off. Since it's just kind of a waxy plastic, they pop off really easy. Now I'm going to use this paper pad from Maggie Holmes. I love this paper pad. It's called Garden Party. I'm going to link that down below as well. But I'm going to cut out a couple of these tags. This is a beautiful paper pad for the springtime and the summertime. And then I'm going to use my Crop-A-Dile. You guys, did you know the Crop-A-Dile is actually meant for eyelets? I use it all the time here on my channel for so many things, but it's actually used for eyelets. That was the whole reason why this thing was invented. So we're going to use it for eyelets today to show you that you have more purposes than just one. So you've got the two different hole punches and the eyelets that you can see here in my container that I'm putting onto my tags. You can rotate around these black squares. Did you know that? They like rotate around. And then you can customize it to the size you need for your eyelet. You clamp down and it creates this adorable tag with an eyelet on it. Then go ahead and wrinkle up that bigger tag first, and then just thread them all onto some twine. And then now I'm going to attach these little tags onto one of the handles of the teacups, and you have the most whimsical, adorable home decor piece to display in your home. We are going to be grabbing one of these little party cups. Take your Crop-A-Dile and punch 2 holes in it. This is such an easy craft to do, and it turns out so beautiful. Now you can see the Crop-A-Dile goes through it really easily without having any issues of it cracking all over the place. Go ahead and punch 2 holes on the opposite side. Take it outside, give it a little bit of paint if you want to keep that color. Now I'm showing you that if you want to do something else, you can Mod Podge whatever tissue paper or napkin or textbook on this, and then you can decorate them however you want, and you can make darling mini buckets with whatever you want inside of it for whatever season. This is such an adorable craft that can go all year long. I love using these little cups. Now you can see here for mine, I'm going to be Mod Podging on some of this text paper from a book that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. And now I'm going to just simply distress around the sides. Couldn't you imagine this with maybe some different tissue paper for the fall or for Halloween or even something for the summertime? And you can put all sorts of things inside this as a base of maybe a little tree or some pumpkins or some florals or a little nest, which is what we're going to be doing today. So I'm just adding a circle on the bottom so you don't see that cup on the outside unless you want to, like I said earlier, paint it and have that color. Now I'm going to take some wire, I'm going to loop it through those holes, and I'm going to simply just twist it into place. So now we have our darling mini bucket. Now, if you have gone to high-end decor stores, they have items like this, and I giggle every time because they sell items like this for like 15 to 20 bucks. Friends, we are doing this for just pennies. It is so affordable to make these yourself, and you can make tons of them because if you buy the pack of cups, they have like 10 cups, I think, maybe 8 cups inside of the pack. So you can make a whole bunch of these with different things. You could even like make these and put these on a Christmas tree. Like how cute would that be for decor? So now I've just put inside some Spanish moss, and I'm coming in with some of these mini eggs from this Easter garland that I had on hand. And I'm going to just snip a little hole in the bottom of the eggs. That way so that it really bonds well in there. Then I'm going to sneak in those little tiny eggs. And I thought I would dress up the front just a little bit more to give it that vintage farmhouse flair. And I'm going to just glue on this little number 3 since there's 3 eggs inside of it. And on top of it I have 3 children. So I thought these are my 3 little baby eggs. And now I'm going to just take some black paint, do some distressing, and paint that number 3. And there you have it, a beautiful decor piece. The Dollar Tree has tons of these right now, being that Valentine's Day is before spring, so you can find these for $1.25. I'm going to take this sign though, and I'm going to turn it into something even cuter. We are going to first take that sign and we're going to trace it onto some fabric. I always like to clean up the back sides of my projects because that's when it looks more store purchased versus it being that you made it from the Dollar Tree, if you know what I mean. So I'm just taking some of this really cute blue and white gingham fabric that I had on hand, and I'm going to cover up that sign that's talking about Valentine's Day because this is for spring. So go ahead and glue that on all around the sides, clean it up, and if you have anything hanging over, just come back in with your scissors and trim it up so it looks nice and polished. I always like to take the time to do these things because again, they really make them look like they're store-bought and not a DIY fail. So now I'm going to just paint the back side of that sign since it was already raw, and then I'm going to come in with my heat gun and dry it real quick. Once that's all nice and dry, now we can start working on some distressing, which is really simple. I always just like to use a very little amount of paint with dry brushing, and then I just come in on the sides just to kind of make it look more farmhouse and spring. And now I'm going to take this white and orange gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree. All of these supplies are from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to just do the first line. And you can see here I was trying to make sure I had my first line right. So make sure it's long enough and it's centered in the middle. And then you're going to pull it over and put a dot. Now you can see that I didn't go all the way across with a line of hot glue. We want it to feel kind of loopy and flowy. So you don't want to keep drawing lines of hot glue with it. I'm just going to simply put dots back and forth, back and forth. And as we're going down, you want to taper down the carrot ribbon so that it looks like a carrot. You don't want to keep it to be the same. If you feel more comfortable, you can even get a ruler and draw some pencil lines if you don't want to freehand this. And if you're a newer crafter, that's totally a good idea too. So you make sure you're staying on the line that you want to be following so it tapers down the way you want. Now with the magic of editing, I'm going to speed it up so you can see that as I'm going down, I'm tapering down the ribbon. And you want to stay close enough to each of those layers that you're putting so you don't see too much of the white behind at different angles. And that way you can see more of the orange. So just keep in mind, keep your layers close together. When you get to the bottom, snip off the extra, pull down that last little piece, and now we're going to work on the top of the carrot. This part is so fun because your carrot starts to come to life at this point. I'm going to use some of this grass from the Dollar Tree. I just popped off a couple of those little stems, and I'm cutting them down to size. Now this purple flower, I always have the hardest time working with it unless I'm making it into like a circle and a wreath, but it has the best greenery on it that looks like carrots. So if you see these long stemmed pink and purple, I think they're white too, at the Dollar Tree, grab them if you're working with carrots because it makes the greatest little foliage on top of the carrot. So go ahead and just glue about 3 of them on there. And then once you've got them all in place and you like how they look, it's nice and full, I'm going to come back in with some twine and just add a simple little bow. I feel like adding a bow always makes everything look so farmhouse, just cute. I really love adding bows. I've never met a bow that I did not like, so I add bows to a lot of my stuff here. And if a bow's not your thing, you can skip that too. Now I'm going to add on some beads to be able to hang it up. And isn't this just the sweetest, easiest craft? I enjoyed making this so much. It took me probably about 15 minutes to make it, but it is just so fun and therapeutic to get my hands on these kind of projects. I was in the Dollar Tree and I came across this little muffin tin, and I just had a fun idea. I decided to take that tin outside and I spray painted it white, and while it was drying, let's pull our supplies out. I'm going to be using these realistic tulips. I'm going to link them down below. They're from Amazon. Some of the Spanish moss, some little lavender florals, and then these round foam circles. I'm going to cut them in half and put them down inside of my tin muffin pan once that paint was dry. We are going to turn this into a little spring garden where it has this really adorable farmhouse look, and we're going to bring some color in. I know that it has been the trendiest thing for so long to do very neutral colors. Trust me, I love my neutrals too. But in the springtime, I need color in my life, especially when you're coming out of a winter. And maybe it's just the fact that I love flowers and I love gardening, but I just had to do this project where we have some really beautiful pink tulips with some beautiful purple lavender. Anyway, so what we're doing is I'm just cutting down these tulips to be a little bit shorter, and I'm sticking them down into these foam pieces that I cut in half and used E6000 and hot glue to glue them to the tin pan. So it got a real good bond to the pan. I am creating these tulips at different heights. On the back 3 rows, the tulips are a little bit higher, and again, they're all different heights. That's what makes it look like a real true wild garden, an English garden, almost a cottage garden. And now I'm coming in with that lavender, and I'm just being really whimsical with it, not overly stuffing these, because that is what a cottage garden looks like. It's just all wild, and it just brings in that spring happiness. So now I'm going to come in with my hot glue, and I'm going to glue on that Spanish moss. Now we want to still see that this is a muffin tin, so it has that farmhouse country look. And I'm just going to tuck that down in there enough where you can see that it's a tin pan. And once I've got those all in there and tucked around, I can do so many fun things with this. You can add little eggs if you wanted to, maybe some little bunnies if you wanted to. I'm going to just stick with my garden look, but I hope you give this one a try. It is so affordable and so fun to imagine with. I have been wanting to make this wreath for so long, and when I saw this bunny at the Dollar Tree right now for the springtime, he comes in a pink jacket with a teal bike and then a teal jacket with a pink bike. You have 2 different options. So I grabbed that sign and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the moment. We're going to make this carrot wreath that I've been wanting to make forever. So we're going to start by taking our tan ribbon and we're going to wrap it around the whole wreath form. And I believe this is a 18-inch wreath form. I think that's what it is. So I'm going to just wrap that around, making sure we have a nice finished wreath form so we don't see that wire. And then the little twine hook that was on the bunny sign, I'm going to repurpose that to hang up the wreath on the back. So I just glued it into place, and I'm coming in with some of that extra ribbon to have a nice clean finished look on the back so you don't see that hot glue. I really love finishing my projects. I know I say that a lot here on my channel, but I really do. I just feel like that's when it looks like it came from a store. No one would ever know that you DIY'd it. So I'm going to now position my sign, and it is going to have a little bit of a lift, and we're going to fix that with something in a second. But we're going to get those first 2 carrots down so we know the positioning of our bunny, where it's going to go, and then where we can start building our carrots out and around. Now, because these carrots have a little bit of that angled look to them. They're thicker at the top, thinner at the bottom. They work perfect on a wreath form. You just keep gluing them in a line, going all the way around until you get to the other side. And then when you get all the way to the other side, we are now going to work on our bunny sign. Gluing these carrots on was so much fun. And I used about 7 packs of carrots. So once I got my last carrot on and in place, we're going to move back over to our bunny. And you can see here that I hot glue gunned on 2 zip ties. I used a ton of glue to make sure it was on there really well. And then I just set it over there to the side to make sure it was drying and it is going to be locked into place before we zip tie it. You want to make sure the glue's dry before you try to zip tie. So while I'm waiting, I'm just going to take some of this greenery that they have at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to fill that in behind the carrots to make it look fuller, to make it look more luxe and just high-end looking. And then once the hot glue was dry, you now can come in with that zip tie, tie it nice and tight. I will recommend try to make sure your zip tie locks are facing up so that they don't scratch your door. And after that, you have a beautiful high-end looking wreath for $12. I picked up this bucket from my local thrift store. It was 50 cents, but I'm sure a bunch of you have these in your garage already. Take off any old existing stickers, clean it up, and then take it outside and give it some spray paint. I went with a beautiful tan color. Now I'm going to take a piece of foam square from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue that down inside and then take a second one and cut that in half and glue that down inside. I'm using E6000 and hot glue. I'm going to have a supply list down below if you need that. Everything will be listed out there, exactly what I used to make this topiary tree. Now I'm going to go ahead and make an impression into the foam square. Because this is a larger dowel, it's not going to poke in as easy. So I made an impression and now I'm coming in with a knife, but you could use a pair of scissors as well. And then put your dowel in there and glue that sucker in there like crazy. We're talking a ton of hot glue. Then on that other half, we're going to repeat the same thing so that fits on there nicely on the dowel on the other end. Take that foam square, shove it up into your wired cone that I got from the Dollar Tree and glue that thing into place so again, it doesn't move. We want this to be sturdy quality. We don't want it falling apart. The more glue you use, the better. Now we're going to take some of this ribbon from the Dollar Tree, but you can honestly use mesh netting. This is just what I had on hand. You could also use some burlap. That will take the price down. I wanted to use certain products on mine, so keep in mind when I say that this thing cost me about $20 to make, it actually can be made for much cheaper, and I'm going to give you some spots here and there where you can save on the price of making this. So go ahead and just wrap your whole cone with some type of a fabric that is tan based. Once you've got it all glued into place and the whole thing is completely covered, now we're going to go and move on to the eggs. Now I used 6 packs of eggs for my topiary. But if you choose to cut your eggs in half, you will only end up needing 3 packs. And that can save you some money on the cost of making this as well. I will tell you, doing the cutting in half is a very tedious job, which is the reason why I got lucky and just had a bunch of eggs. And so I'm using these eggs. You're going to see here that I went in through one of the openings where the hole is, and I'm just cutting around the seam. Each of these eggs have a seam on them, so I'm cutting along the seam until they snap in half. They are a thicker plastic, so like I said, it is a trickier job to try to cut all these in half, but it is doable if you want to cut down on the cost and only use 3 packs versus 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some of this Spanish moss. I used 2 packs because you want to make sure it's filled in nice and neat and it makes that there's no gaps in between. And we're going to just nestle it right up to the eggs in between all of them and all over where that fabric is still showing. Make sure as you're pulling off the Spanish moss that you are shaking out a little bit of that extra debris. And then when you've got it all in place, go ahead and take your scissors and give it a haircut. You want to make it so that the eggs are coming out higher than the grass. You don't want them to be too low down in there. You want to be able to see them, and then just give them trims around it, taking your time. This part's actually kind of fun to do. And then just tap it to make the grass that is loose that you cut to come out. Now, you don't have to do this part, but again, I thought it was so beautiful to add this extra texture in here. And this is another place where you can save some money if you don't want to do the beaded garland going around it. So I just wired it up at the top, and then I'm going to come down and just keep wrapping it. And when I get all the way down to the base, I'm going to bring it around on the inside, twist it into place, and add some hot glue. Now again, you don't have to do what I'm doing. You could skip that part. And I actually ended up using 2 of them because I really enjoyed how it brought it to life with the second one. So that's another place to cut down on the cost of your project. Now we're going to add in a ton of hot glue again. We are going to slide on the top of our topiary, and then we are going to just twist it so we get the handle lined up with the front that we want. By the way, before you stick the dowel in, make sure your handle in your bucket is the right direction before you put the dowel in. Otherwise, you will be caught with the handle being on the seam side of the bucket versus the front side of the bucket, if you know what I mean. Now I'm going to take these rocks and I'm going to pour them down inside of the bucket. This is going to create some extra weight for the bucket since it's going to be out on the front porch. And then I'm going to come in with one more of these foam squares to add in some support. We want to make sure that this thing is nice and snug inside, and maybe even add a little bit more if you have some extra foam on hand. Really pack it in there because this is going to give it that finishing look where it's not wobbling all over the place. You could use other things too that you might have on hand that you want to shove down in here. It's totally up to you and what you want to use. Then we're going to go ahead and take some more of that Spanish moss, and we are going to just tuck that in and glue it all over to conceal that foam. Now again, here's another place where you can save some money. I totaled everything up that I personally used. This is a new ribbon that they're doing from the Dollar Tree, and it was $3 for the spool, and it's a really thick, wide ribbon, and I love, love, love the colors on it because it matches the eggs perfectly. You can get a ribbon from the Dollar Tree that's much more affordable. They have a beautiful mint burlap ribbon that is a great option as well. And then I just doubled up my 2 bows, one bigger, one smaller, and it's ready for your front porch to be displayed. Our supplies are going to be these 6 terracotta pots, the word Easter from their wooden letters at the Dollar Tree craft section, 6 popsicle sticks, as well as some foam, and then 6 of these eggs that we're going to be using, and we'll be having some pattern paper on top of them. But you're going to keep a 7th one so that you can use it to trace onto that pattern paper and get the exact size we need. Once you have all your supplies collected, go ahead and take those popsicle sticks and the 6 eggs and glue the stick onto the bottom center of the egg. Once those are glued all together, get your foam squares and you're going to cut them down so that they fit nice and snug inside of those terracotta pots. I like to add a little bit of glue on the side so it sticks to the pot, and then a little bit on the top so we can stick those eggs down inside that foam. Make sure your eggs are all at the same height, so play around with them before the glue dries. And then once it is dry, take some white paint and go ahead and paint the egg, the stick of the popsicle stick, the inside of the pot rim, and the outside of the pot rim. I just use a smaller brush on that rim, and I just take my time going around making sure I have a nice clean line. Then you're also going to paint your letters Easter the color white. Once everything has been painted, we now can move on to our pattern paper. So we're going to need 6 different pattern papers, and my tip that I like to do with my pattern paper whenever I'm working with smaller things I'm tracing, I always like to trace the shape first. I like to stick in a corner, and then I try to cut a nice clean straight line so that it's easy to store this extra piece that I'm not going to be using, and it doesn't get all crazy in your paper bins. Once you've got that egg cut out with you tracing it around with the wooden egg, go ahead and continue to move on to all the other colors until you have everything cut out. Now we're going to take our hot glue, and you could use adhesive on this, but I just feel like the hot glue is much more cost efficient with this one. And we're going to go ahead and just put that on and use a popsicle stick before it starts to dry and just smooth it out underneath that pattern paper. Now we're going to take some scissors and we are just going to rough up that edge. The size of the paper already fits on the egg, but I love how it brings out that white undertone on the paper and makes it look more farmhouse. Then go ahead and take your letters and glue them on, and make sure you get your pattern paper in the colors that you want in the order you want, so that you don't later on accidentally glue the wrong letter to the wrong egg pattern paper. So I like to figure out which pattern in order I want them to be for my sign. Now go ahead and take some more hot glue and put that all over the inside of your pot and add on some of your Spanish moss. And then I took some of this really cute white ribbon in the ribbon section at the Dollar Tree, and I just tied a simple little bow, putting that at the bottom of the egg. And then again, I say it on here a lot on my channel, I love buttons, especially at springtime. I don't know why I love buttons so much, but I think it reminds me of my grandma. My grandma had a big tin of all these buttons, and so did my mom. My mom had a big mason jar. So I'm going to use these teeny tiny buttons. You can get these at Joann's craft store. I went ahead and just put that right in the center of the bow. And now I'm going to get a very dry brush of brown, and I'm just going to help enhance those letters a little bit more so that they really stand out. And this is our finished look of the project. For this craft, we are going to be using one of these bunny Easter signs. We're going to be using one of these signs from the fall season, but honestly they sell these all year long with just different holidays on the front covers of these little box signs, some florals, and one of these tiles that you can pick up in their home improvement section in the Dollar Tree store. So we're going to take our bunny and we are going to cut the particle board with the little arms. We're going to cut those parts off so it's rounded. And then we're also going to take off the twine and the tag, and we're going to be covering this bunny with this textured tile. So how we're going to get that process done, we're going to lay the bunny on top of that tile. It's a little bumpy while you're tracing, so just take your time going over it, making sure you get your line nice and defined. I'm using a Sharpie marker because I'm eventually going to be painting this anyway. I'm also going to be cutting inside of the line versus directly on that black line, because you can see when you're tracing it, it has a little bit of a wider trace on it. It'll be hanging over a little too much. So cut inside the black line, and then when you go to pull off that plastic, you're going to realize that the adhesive sheet they had on the back is actually bound to the edges of the tile, so that whole piece is going to come off, and that's actually okay. I found that it worked out even better that way. So I made sure my hot glue was really hot, and then I went ahead and made a quick line all the way around the bunny so that the glue doesn't dry. Make sure your hot glue is really, really hot so that it can go all the distance without it cooling off. Then we're going to come back in and line up that tile on the bunny the best we can with the remainder of that piece that we have left over, and cut off the bottom rounded part, add some hot glue, and then combined it right where that joint is, and this is going to make it look pretty seamless. It gets pretty close. I love the texture of these tiles, and there's such a possibility with these, and they're only $1.25. So if you find them in your store, definitely pick them up. Now I'm going to cover mine with a nice crisp white, but you honestly could do whatever color you want for your bunny and your theme that you're doing for your Easter season, spring season. Now you can use a heat gun on it, but just be mindful that you're working with plastic still because of that tile, so keep it moving quick. And then on the back side of your bunny, make sure you tidy it up with some paint, or if you get a second tile, you can do the tiles on the back. That could be kind of pretty too, especially if you're putting this on a table for a display for a dinner, or just, I don't know, you want to be able to see both sides. You could do the tile in the back and add a little cotton bunny tail. That could be so cute too. So now we're going to add some texture and bring these tiles to life. I used a little bit of black paint with more brown, mixed it together, and now I'm dry brushing. You can see that I used a towel there, a paper towel, to get off the majority of the paint, because we only want to basically scrape across the surface of the raised tile texture so that we pick up that look. And now it has this vintage looking farmhouse tiles. I just think it turned out so pretty. Now we're going to take our bunny and we are going to glue it into our box. This box is going to allow our bunny to stand up anywhere we want to display it. And we're going to take some of these foam squares from the Dollar Tree. We're going to pop those in with some hot glue, and as well as some of this Spanish moss. This is going to conceal that foam and really clean it up and make it look like it's store-bought. Now pick the florals you want. I'm going to be using a lot of lavender, white, and a very soft pink throughout my whole spring season. So I am using these colors, but you can use whatever colors you want. You could go with a really pretty crisp white and pinks or yellows, and basically make a little garden for your bunny box. And the last is just simply take a twine bow or whatever bow you want to use and pop that right on your bunny. Up next, I'm going to be taking one of these bags from the Dollar Tree. You can get two for $1 or $1.25 now. I'm going to remove the handles, and there's a piece of paper that's in front of it, so pull that off first and then pop off the handles. Now you don't want to rip the actual bag, you're just removing the handles, because what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into the cutest bunny bag. Now you can see here, this is what it looks like on the inside. And I want you all to see that crafting doesn't always have to be so complicated. Even making a darling little gift bag like this is something so sweet and simple to do, and it's crafting. So if you're new to crafting, don't feel overwhelmed by getting tons of power tools. Start with something cute and simple, like taking a simple bag like this and just drawing a little bunny face on it, adding some cute little bunny ears. Oh, I just think these are so cute to hand out for this coming Easter and spring. So once you've got your face drawn on, you're then going to take those handles, and we're not going to put them back in the center how they originally were. We're going to only glue them to the back side of the bag, and we're going to off-center them so we can put two so it makes it look like ears. Once you've got those glued in there, take a piece of that scrap that you ripped off earlier, glue that back in there, and you could cover that up with a little bit cuter paper, like scrapbook paper. But I'm just going to repurpose what was there just so you can see that you can seriously do this for pennies. Once you're all done, put some cute little gifts inside and some tissues and hand this out with a big wow factor. This candy dish comes in several different colors. I grabbed the clear one because we are going to be taking this outside to spray paint it white. Now once we've removed all the stickers from it, it's ready to be spray painted, and you can honestly do whatever color you want, but I'm going to do it white so I can get that farmhouse look. Now I'm going to be taking these large, oversized tongue depressor sticks that I pick up from Walmart, and I'm going to figure out the width of the round band that goes around that candy dish, and I'm going to cut these popsicle sticks so we've got that bump at the top, and it's going to give us that scallop effect on this container. Now as you're going around, you are going to need to cut one down a little bit thinner so it can fit on the back. If you use popsicle sticks, it will give you a smaller scallop, and it will also allow you to probably not have to cut one down like this. So it just depends on how thick you want your scallops to be. Now I'm going to be using, I like to call this wood ribbon. I found this on Amazon. I'll link it down below. Oh man, friends, this stuff has so much potential to craft with. because it's like a ribbon, but it's wood. And so you can stain it and do all kinds of fun things with it. I'm going to be going around my candy dish twice to create that darling farmhouse bucket look. This is going to look so cute. Simply start by adding some glue and then just wrapping it around. Now it does want to not fully lay flat when you're going on a curved edge, just because it's wood. But I just keep manipulating it and working with it and gluing it down, and I get a nice laid down flat look. Once you've got it in place, go ahead and cut off the extra. And now we're going to take some water and some brown paint, and we are going to do a beautiful faux stain on it. I like to make sure I covered those inside scallops, and then on the very bottom of that little candy dish, I made sure to match the paint so that it matched the bucket. But I kept the stand part white and did a little distressing on it. Now we're going to take some foam, and you can put anything inside of it you want, but I decided to go with a beautiful floral decor inside. So I just popped in some foam, and now I'm going to add in some of the Spanish moss, and then I'm coming in with some Real Touch tulips. I will link those down below. I get these from Amazon. They come in so many colors, and they really are all the hype that everybody is talking about. I love these things so much. So I just popped those down in there, gave them some beautiful display at different heights, and then added on a garden tag that I think has such a farmhouse flair. For this project, we are going to take this simple wooden framed box, and we're going to start by popping off the back of the twine, the sticker, all that good stuff on the back. And then we're going to take a dark brown and paint the frame and a little bit of the inside of this box. Don't forget the back as well, because I love a good finished back on all my projects. Now we're going to pick out some pattern paper. This part is the fun part because you get to pick the papers that you want. I measure the inside of my box with a clear ruler because it lets me be able to see the dimensions a little bit better with a clear ruler. And then I'm going to just cut down my paper to size and glue that right inside the box. As I am putting the glue in, I'm trying to make sure I'm not leaving any of that stringy residue left behind from the hot glue, because it does make it a little bit difficult later on trying to get out once you glue the paper in. And then I'm going to just push that right down inside. Now I went over to my computer and printed out the word Our Nest using my Word program on my computer. And then once I cut that down, I decided to come in with another pattern paper. I love mixing scrapbook pattern paper so much. I feel like it brings so much personality to such a simple project like a wooden framed box. Now I'm going to layer those and glue those all together, cut them down to size, and then pop that right inside. Now we can stop there, and this is really cute and beautiful, but because it says the word nest, I thought it would be so adorable to bring in a tiny little bird's nest. Now we're going to take some of this nautical rope. It has 3 twisted together on one rope strand, so I went ahead and just untwisted them so I only had one of those ropes. I tied a simple knot, and now I'm just going to add some glue and start coiling around until I get to a size of a little bird's nest that I think would be cute for the corner of this frame. Once you've got it wrapped around enough, start to bring it towards the back side, wrap it around so it has a nice finished look. I feel like these are the moments where projects start to kind of look like a Pinterest fail if you're not careful with how the finishings are. So I'd like to bring it around the back, glue it into place. Then I added in some Spanish moss. And now I'm going to create some little tiny mini eggs with some air dry clay. These little eggs are going to really finish the look of this project. Once the eggs are dry, go ahead and take a paintbrush and just sprinkle on some of those little specks, and once they're dry, you can go ahead and glue your little egg into place. And I wanted to come in to give it that farmhouse look a little bit more, so I'm just dry brushing on some white paint. And then to fill in that corner, because I felt like it was still a little too not finished at the bottom of this project, I added in a little bit more of that Spanish moss. This next project is so fast and so fun, don't blink. We are going to take 2 of these ball holders that you use for soccer. They're orange, a perfect carrot color, and then some fern and some long grass foliage from the Dollar Tree. Now I will say, I saw this pinned on Pinterest, but the link was a dead link where I couldn't actually get to the person who came up with this originally. I wish I could have, because I want to give credit to those who deserve to get credit for the ideas. But I wanted to share it on here. If I can find it later on down the road, I will make sure I link it in my description box. I'm pretty sure it was a TikTok person. Someone just took a picture, like a screenshot of it, and they didn't have the account name. It was such a bummer. But anyway, so you can see here, I'm just beefing up the fern, and I'm just adding in some extra green because I just think it looks nice and full and pretty. And then I'm going to wrap some twine around it to help strengthen it. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and tie a knot, make sure it's all on there nice and snug. And I will say that I decided to beef up mine a little bit more than what I saw the inspiration, because I liked it to be fuller. Now you're going to take the ball holders, the cones, you're going to snug that down into your dirt or your mulch, and then simply tuck in the greenery in that hole. And it makes a giant carrot. Is this not the cutest thing ever for your front yard? This DIY is a little more complicated, but it's really simple still at the same time. So we're going to use one of these wood rounds, some of these lavender flower pieces from the Dollar Tree, and some white burlap. I'm going to start by just popping out that twine, but after I popped it out, I realized I didn't really need to do that. I could have just left it in. I could have just popped out one side because we're going to add beads to it. But we're basically going to do a wood wash on this. I just took some brown and black paint with some water, went over it to make it a darker stained looking wood so you can see more of that grain and texture. It's still a little bit damp here, so you're still seeing it kind of darker, but as it goes on, it dries more. Now I'm going to put back on that twine, and this is why I was saying I didn't really need to take it off, but whenever I'm painting things, I always take things apart. It's just kind of a habit I have. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop on some wood beads, and I love the raw beads with the new stain. I feel like it adds some of that contrast to it, and it also gives it that farmhouse feel. So now I'm going to take that white burlap, and I'm going to just trace a line around it with the circle wood round being on here. And then I'm going to just cut that out real simple. It's not going to be the most perfect fit because we're going to need to trim it down in a second, but you can see that I'm putting on 2 layers. Burlap can be kind of see-through, so I always like to double it up when I'm crafting with it. It's just my own personal preference. You don't have to do that. You do what feels best for you. You don't even have to use burlap. You can use something else like a drop cloth that could be really pretty, or an old sheet that you have that you want to use and save even more money. Just cut that up too. I've used sheets in the past too on projects too. So now I'm going to just fold that over to kind of give it that gunny sack look. I love that look. It kind of has like a farmer's market look at this point. Now I'm going to trim off the edges so it keeps it nice and clean. Again, store-bought looking projects always have the back sides finished, so always keep that in mind when you're crafting. Then for my florals, I'm just going to cut them off of the stems. I never like using the stems. I like to cut them individually so that you can place them on their own and make them look more of a wildflower arrangement versus it being just clumped together. I just think that this looks more realistic. Now my daughter got these stamps for Christmas, and as soon as I saw them, I thought I'm going to totally use those on a DIY. I just liked the font. I felt like it had a very farmer's market font to it. So now I'm just stamping on with a ruler so I stay nice and straight. I saw this quote a couple of months back and I thought, I must have flowers always, always. And I love that. I love flowers. If you don't know, I love gardening. I actually planted hundreds of bulbs in my yard this fall so that the springtime over my home channel, you'll see them all coming up. I love gardening. I picked that up from my mom. Not only is my mom a crafter, but she's also a gardener. So you can see here, I'm just roughing it up, scrunching it, crinkling it so it's got that farmer's market vibe to it. And now I'm going to just distress it a little bit. You can skip this whole sign if it's not for you, but I really did love the extra texture it added to it and added some more personality. And I just, again, love the quote, I must have flowers always, always. So once you've got that glued on into the place that you like, this is the finished look. You can hang it up in a mudroom, by the front door, on your front door. So many options and places to put it. We're going to start with using 2 of these larger wreath forms and 1 of these smaller wreath forms. You can see it's smaller because it fits inside these larger ones. And if you don't know, I just saw this pop up on their website. They are actually going to be selling these bunny wreath forms. If you can get your hands on them, awesome. They're $5. If not, we're going to make one for about the same price, maybe even $1 or $2 less. Because each one of these wreath forms are about $1.25, so let's just say $4 we're going to build this bunny. But if you can get your hands on the other one, awesome. So we're going to start with taking one of these larger wreath forms and we are going to cut it with some of my wire cutters so that we can take it apart and create the ears. I love cutting apart things like this because it's amazing what you can make with just normal everyday items. So we're going to cut some of those branches from the wreath down to size. I ended up having about 6, we'll say 7 inches long is what I was working with. And then I cut it down as I needed it. Gather them together. You want to keep some long at the end, but make sure the top is all gathered at the same length. And then I'm going to use just some of these clips from the Dollar Tree to gather them together so I can glue that top part together. Right now we're forming one side of the bunny ear and we're going to do this 4 times so that we can bring 2 of them together 2 times to create 2 ears. So you can see here that after I've got them all glued, hot glue's dried, and a good thing is that it dries clear. We're going to go ahead and now bring those tips together, gluing them nice and strong, and we're going to conceal the glue with a bead garland in a minute and it'll look so pretty when it's done. So now once the tops are dry, I'm going to take a zip tie, and I decided to use the zip tie because I wanted to keep that shape of the bunny ear, and this is the best way to hold all of the wood together without it breaking. Once you've got it in place and the bunny ears are the same length, snip off all the extra, but you do want to keep a couple of these extra pieces long at the end so we can weave that into the wreath. This is going to make your bunny ears extra strong and sturdy. So you can see I've got these longer pieces and I'm just weaving them down in there, and then once you've got it in a nice snug position, go ahead and take some hot glue and go down into those cracks and crevices and add in that hot glue. This is going to make the bunny ears super strong and sturdy and they're not going to come off. And you can see here that the glue is not super noticeable, but if you want to conceal it, which I did, I took some of this beaded garland and I just think it adds such a pretty spring texture to it. I wrapped it all over my bunny and just making sure that I was concealing some of the hot glue. But again, from somebody on the street, if you're hanging this on the front door, no one's ever going to notice that hot glue. You can honestly put whatever you want on it to conceal it. Now we're going to bring the head onto the body form. I did 1 large zip tie first around the 2 wreaths. And now I'm taking 2 more and I'm weaving them through to make it stronger on the front. Then we're going to flip it over and then do 2 more on the back. So that way you have 5 zip ties all together. This is going to make it really strong. The bunny head's not going to come off or be all wiggly. So the tighter you get these zip ties, the better, and then just cut them off. Last, we're going to come in with some more of that bead garland to match the top. And now we can start decorating the neck of the bunny. I made this double loop bow. I'm gluing that on first. And then I'm going to come in with this gingham ribbon that I picked up. The gingham ribbon, that's this minty green color. I picked that up from Michael's years ago, but you can use tons of ribbon that they have at the Dollar Tree. The mint burlap ribbon is from the Dollar Tree. So I used this gingham ribbon. Now I'm going around the 2 wreaths, tying a knot to secure it all into place, and then tying a traditional bow, cutting it off, and then just zhuzhing with it until I get it the way I want it to look. I love the look of a lot of layered bows, especially that's super trendy right now on wreaths, to add a lot of different layer bows, some that are longer and flowy in the wind, some that are sheer. Just keep playing with all your bows until you get it to the way you want. I'm using a lot of mint and soft bubblegum pink. And I also added a twine bow right in the middle. I just love that loopy look. On the back, to make your ribbons look flowier and not to make it too bulky on the front, I'm just doing a line of glue and adding on a couple more ribbons. These are going to hang down even longer than the wreath so they can blow in the wind. Now I'm going to come in with some florals. I'm using this poppy floral, and then I'm adding in some large green leaves, some of this lavender. We're going to go with a light and a dark lavender. And then what is spring without a couple of daisies? I love daisies on my projects, on my wreaths at the springtime. I just think that they're so beautiful. And then at the very end, once you've got all of your florals on there the way you want them, friends, this is the most whimsical wreath, and we made the whole thing right around $10, which is outrageously cheaper than what they sell these for in stores. For this DIY, I'm going to be taking a trash can from the Dollar Tree, and we are going to be manipulating it into a top hat for spring. So what you do is you take it at the middle, towards the bottom some, and you're just going to start pressing it in, squeezing it. This mesh wire bends really easily without having any issues, and you can see that I'm pinching the extra down inside the hat. Once I've got that pinched, I went ahead and squished it one more time, so I kind of have almost like a zigzag in the wire where it's pinched underneath and then it's brought in a little bit towards the bottom again where the top hat meets the rim. So I'm creating it to not be so tall. If I didn't do this where I pushed it in one more time, it would almost be too tall. So you can see that right there, there's some metal that's pinched to zigzag back and forth. Then at the top, I took a round piece of burlap. I cut that and glued that on and pressed it down. And now I'm taking another piece of burlap to go around the side of the top of the hat. And I'm just going to cut off any extra and then glue everything down in place. The trick to make this look high-end is you want to make sure you have as clean a line as possible. And then for the brim of the hat, I've decided to take some of this pretty lace burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And first I'm going to zigzag it back and forth because it's got a wire in it, and that's going to make my job so much easier. And then I'm going to take the ribbon and put it on to the rim of the hat. And I'm coming underneath and adding the hot glue like this, because this is allowing it to be able to seep down in there and lock everything on. And then one more tip, I came back in with my hot glue and I went underneath each one of the pleats and added a little dot of hot glue to make sure the pleats don't lift up. Now you can still see the wire around that bottom part of the hat. I don't want to see that. So I'm going to take another piece of burlap ribbon. I'm using this teal color, which is really pretty. And then I'm going to come back in with this gingham ribbon. All of these ribbons are from the Dollar Tree except for obviously the tan burlap that I brought in from Joann's. And I wrapped it around a couple times, and I'm using that gingham ribbon to clean up the top of that teal ribbon, because I did have to kind of, you know, pleat it and fold it on there to be able to conceal all of that last of that wire. Now, you could definitely leave the wire exposed, but I did not like the wire exposed. I wanted to cover it up. I thought this was so much prettier, and for $1 with all of these other little supplies here and there, it turned out so pretty. So now I'm coming in on the side, and I'm just adding on some florals, and then I'm going to take some of my bead garland that you know I love so much, and I just coiled that around my finger and stuck that down in there. And then I'm going to add on a really big, beautiful gingham bow over towards the back. And then the last finishing touches, because it's for Easter, springtime, I'm going to add in a couple carrots up at the top, and after that it's ready to be displayed somewhere in your home. Sometimes we have Dollar Trees where we cannot find the newest trendy stuff, and I decided to share as well for those friends who aren't always able to get a hold of everything. I want to make sure I'm being cautious and aware of you out there if you're wanting crafts and being able to still do things for the holiday. So I'm going to show you how we're going to take these 2 wire candy cane forms. I know these were pretty popular and most stores had them because these are a really old item Dollar Tree's been carrying for many years. So we're going to take 2 of them, flip one upside down, and you saw how I brought it together, and now we're going to use 5 zip ties. Now my trick with this is I don't start locking everything in really tight until I get all 5 of them on there, and then at that point I start tightening them to hold them in place, because as you're putting it on sometimes things are shifting, and it just makes it easier when you keep it loose until you're ready to lock it all in super tight. Now I'm going to take a piece of drop cloth, and we are going to just pull that fabric around really tight. I know the backside of this looks really terrible, but you're not even going to see it because we're going to be covering it with our mesh ribbon. I think that's what that stuff is called. Leave a comment down below to let me know if it's called something else. If I just botched that name, I'm sorry if I did. So we are going to take 2 of these greenery stems from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to glue those on first. It does make it a little complicated as you're trying to wrap around this mesh ribbon because you're having to move those things around and they are bumping it a little bit, but I promise it's better to glue them on first and then put on the mesh ribbon because you don't want to see all that yucky glue down there. It's just not a very finished look. So once you've got your yellow on first, I put that yellow on first because I just wanted to beef it up. That's just my preference. If you have a ton of orange, go for it with the orange. I used about 3 of the orange meshed ribbon, and I wish I had a 4th. I think if I had a 4th, I probably would not have used the yellow, but again, you can see that yellow will work too. So you can see here also I'm using a popsicle stick. That is because that hot glue will seep through that mesh and it will burn you. So just keep that in mind. And then I wrapped some twine around it. I came up to the top, I tied a knot, and I really did that because I just like that farmhouse look. I also feel like it's going to secure it and lock all of that mesh ribbon in place, and I think it looks pretty with the twine on it. I don't know, that's just me. You could skip that part if you don't like it. And then we added on the bunny that they have at the Dollar Tree, and we're adding on some beautiful bows. I love doubling up my bows. I just think things look more, it just looks more high-end when you put these double bows on it. I'm going to add on a beautiful peony pink flower, and I'm going to add in some of this eucalyptus, just tucking it all in and making it look so just beautiful for spring. Now on the back side, I'm going to take a Dollar Tree nautical rope, and I'm going to hot glue that on and then get some of this extra fabric that I have here sitting to the side, and I'm just going to put that right on top so it's all locked in and glued in place. Up next, we're going to be using this bunny sign from the Dollar Tree, these eggs, and then as well as the gingham ribbon. I'm going to be using out of the eggs, the teal eggs, the white eggs, and the purple eggs, just so I kind of go with the color theme to match the ribbon. Once you've got those all out and unpackaged, go ahead and take your bunny, flip it over, and take off the carrots and the staples. Now I'm planning on using those carrots for another DIY on another day, so I'm just going to put them to the side and hold on to those. And then for the bunny at the top of his ears, we're going to go ahead and take off that as well. On the back side of most of these, they have this little, almost like an aglet, like the end of a shoelace. You just pop it out and it comes off really easy without having to cut it, and that's something you can save too for crafting. So now is probably the trickiest part, but honestly, this is so easy. I'm going very slow with my drill because I don't want it to slip and hit my fingers, and I just take my time drilling a hole on one side of each of the eggs. The other side of the egg already has a hole. So now I'm going to take my ribbon at the end. I fold the ribbon in half, and I'm going to do a little slip knot right here. You can see I just went around, pulled it through, and tightened it. And then on the other end, to be able to thread everything through quicker without struggling with the ribbon, I'm going to take a piece of wire. I'm going to glue the very tip of that ribbon to the wire. So this is going to now serve as a long needle to be able to thread the eggs through and the beads. Just make sure the wire is not too thick that things can't get through. So once you've got your ribbon nestled onto the wire, this is going to make it so much easier to thread everything on. I like using this trick a lot when I'm working with ribbon, just because it makes it so much faster. So you can see here that I slipped on the first bead, and I'm going to come all the way down to the end, and we're going to clean up this end where our little loop is. This is what you would use to hang up this garland we're making on the wall. So just go ahead and cut off that extra flap from tying that knot. I'm going to add some glue, and then I'm going to pull the bead down, and this is going to give it a store finished look. This is the kind of stuff that really makes a difference in your crafts. So what I did was I did a bead, an egg, a bead, a knot, then I did a space for about 3 fingers, and then I did another knot, came back on with another bead, then an egg, then a bead, then a knot, then a space, then a knot, then a bead, then an egg, then a bead, then a knot. And I repeated this all the way down. You'll see in the very end the finished pattern of what I did. But the fun thing about garlands is that you can do whatever you want with them and just have so much fun. And they make the cutest decorations in a home. So at this point you can see I'm trying to decide what to do between the bunny ears. And at first I put all these extra beads in this egg, and I kept sitting on it, and I just wasn't sure about it yet. I actually went and hung it up, and then I decided, no, I don't like the way that that looks. I really want the bunny's ears to be shown better than what it looked with this egg as a distraction in between it. So I went ahead and cut the middle, pulled the egg off, undid these knots, and then I went ahead, pulled off the beads, and on the back side, I glued down those ribbons. And I liked this so much more because I felt like it really showed the bunny ears better. But you can see the pattern right here, what I was talking about earlier, and how I tied all these. And I just loved it because it shows the ribbon, the beads, and the eggs. And then the bunny has the spotlight right center in the middle of your garland. It'll look so cute on a shelf or on a wall, wherever you decide to hang it up. We're going to start with using this bunny from the Dollar Plus section at the Dollar Tree, this plastic bowl from the Dollar Normal sections, and then a foam square with some greenery. My greenery came from Hobby Lobby. I'm using this pick with these leaves you see here, as well as a boxwood garland that I'm going to be cutting up, and I just cut up that all the time. I save tons of money doing it that way. Start by cutting down your foam square to fit around the bunny in this oval bowl. We are going to be gluing all of these foam pieces in there so that we can embellish around the bottom of the bunny. Now the bunny itself is totally cute and you can just put that on a table, but I want you to see that you can take a cute decor piece and make it even better by adding a little garden underneath it. So to conceal that foam, I'm going to cover it up with some Spanish moss. You can see that I poked some holes into that foam. The reason why I did that was because the boxwood pieces from the garland do not have wire in them, and it makes it easier to glue those down into the foam so they're all nice and secure. But the one with the leaf, that one has wire in it. So just, you know, when you're working with your florals, work with that accommodation so that you can make sure everything's glued in nice and secure and things aren't falling apart. Once you've got your little garden bunny bed, you're going to go ahead and take some of these eggs from the Dollar Tree, a shish kebab stick, and I just broke it down to size so it goes up into the egg, and then that way I can use this to stake into the foam. That's going to make sure these are in there nice and secure without them popping off, because honestly hot glue is not going to hold these eggs on very well. Now one thing I decided to go back and do was to paint the bowl white. I wish I had done this first, but sometimes I do things out of order as I'm working on things. I noticed that I think it would look better if I do this, and so I still just added it in after all. After that, you've got a finished adorable garden bunny bed. If you enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos coming out here on my channel. I'm going to recommend this video right here. It is another mega video. If you enjoyed this mega video, you might also enjoy this video. Thanks so much for stopping by today, and until the next episode, bye friends.